First of all, I'd like to say to Professor McDermott that, speaking for myself and on behalf of a number of municipal politicians, I want to express our appreciation for him bringing a body of empirical data into this area. Anecdotally, I've been telling the stories about developer influence and its detrimental impact on how we grow our municipalities in Ontario for a long period of time. And usually with arguments like what's $750 and it really doesn't matter and what's the big deal, that's been largely dismissed. But I think what Professor McDermott's data has done is it's taking those anecdotal stories that many of us had, and it puts in black and white the numbers and connects the dots and shows that there is it's a problem here. I want to illustrate that by just using one example that's very current and very relevant to the way we develop our municipalities here in Ontario, especially in the Greater Toronto Area. As all of you know, this present Liberal government has been and should be applauded for, I think, a couple of important initiatives, the Greenbelt Act and the Places to Grow Act, which together, basically, the thrust of it is it says we have to build our municipalities smarter, we have to end sprawl-type development, we have to preserve agricultural land and environmental land, and we have to develop in a more concentrated urban way to prevent that sprawl taking place. And in the Places to Grow Act, they required municipalities like the region of Durham to pass growth conformity amendments to their official plan, which Durham did by a document called Official Plan 128, which Durham passed in early June of this year. In doing that, they brought in about 7,400 acres of new land to be urbanized, all of which, or most of it, is prime agricultural land. 3,200 of those acres are near us in northeast Pickering, 3,200 acres. Now, well before that amendment came forward, two developers prominent in the GTA and especially in Durham, Tribute Communities and Runnymede Development Corporation, acting in a partnership called Roehampton Farms, started buying up land in northeast Pickering. By the time that vote took place, they had accumulated in excess of 1,000 acres in northeast Pickering. In the 2006 election, those two developers contributed in total $42,600 to candidates in Ajax, Pickering, Whitby, and Oshawa, 4 of the 8 municipalities in Durham, for 19 seats on Durham Regional Council. 15 winners in those elections received funding from those developers. And 12 of those 15 voted to include northeast Pickering as a new urban area, despite the fact that these new lands are not contiguous to any urban lands. It's leapfrog, it's separate from the other urban areas. Strong objections from the Toronto Region Conservation Authority, the Sierra Club, the town of Ajax, and other interest groups that pointed out that including northeast Pickering was not in conformity with either the letter or the spirit of the Places to Grow Act. 11 of the 12 received $750 from each of those two developers, who are separate companies but related to this development. So in those cases, they received $1,500. And in one case, a combination of personal donations, etc., by the principals, resulted in total contributions to one candidate of $2,100. That to me says that in a very real way, this type of developer contribution, especially in the greenfield development areas of the 905, is running directly contrary to what the province of Ontario wants to accomplish in its legislation. And the province of Ontario doesn't seem to understand, the government doesn't seem to understand that the Greenbelt legislation and the Places to Grow Act, our DOA, our debt on arrival, and will not survive the Greenbelt's 10-year review, and will not survive this process of growth conformity exercises if they continue to allow a system that elects a majority of municipal councillors who are committed to, are funded by, and I would say are beholden to the development industry. The reason that the province did not make the amendments and the reforms they should have was because the same people contribute provincially. And they would not do it to the municipalities because then they'd have to do it to themselves, and that politically was untenable. I just want to conclude by giving you one further statistic. The province made what I call very small baby steps in the nature of reform. They put a $5,000 limit per contributor in each municipality, like Ajax and for Pickering and for Oshawa. Those reforms mean that in the 4 municipalities I've cited, Ajax, Pickering, Whitby, and Oshawa, those 2 developers, Tribute and Runnymede, would now be capped at $40,000. In 2006, they contributed $42,600. This is not dramatic reform. And the numbers, I think, speak for themselves. So if we really want to reshape our communities, if we really want smart growth, if we really want to put an end to sprawl, if we think having Class 1 agricultural land near to the urban areas of the GTA is important, and if we feel preservation of important environmental features, such as the headwaters of the Crothers Creek in northeast Pickering, which will be obliterated by this development, is important, then we must have these reforms. That's what's important here. It's not an academic, with all due respect, Professor, exercise. It's about what happens ultimately on the ground. That's why it's important. So, I have to catch a GO train and get back to Ajax. But if anybody here wishes to ask me any follow-up questions, I'll just leave some of my cards on the table. I get them for free. It's for the principal office. So.